hammering home. I keep thinking, Elise, about Donald Trump watching this and seeing his attorney in action and the way she's, to use Charles' word, hammering Stormy Daniels. He's got to be happy about that, knowing the way he operates.
Well, he's not happy about the risk of jail being in the courtroom, but he's getting a ton of attention, and he doesn't really care about whether positive or negative. Donald Trump doesn't really care.
Well, he also always talks about wanting people to defend him, to be fighters.
Exactly.
Right?
And I have, for all of the speculation that Donald Trump's defense team was going to be weak, I don't know. They seem pretty strong to me, that he's got, he's gone through so many lawyers. He's not going to be able to get good representation. So far, this has been, it seems like a pretty well-matched defense against the prosecution.
Well, this particular team of attorneys are extremely experienced. Susan Nichols is a very, very experienced trial attorney. And Todd Blanche is no lightweight by any stretch of the imagination. So I think a lot of people looked at his defense attorneys in the civil trials with Alina Habba and some people who may not necessarily be as experienced and sort of thought that he was bringing in the B team. It's very clear Donald Trump, the candidate, understands what's at stake. And so Donald Trump, the candidate, was going to make sure that Donald Trump, the defendant, had all of the resources that he could available to him. And that brings me to a very quick point. This narrative around Stormy Daniels benefits Donald Trump, the candidate, more than it does Donald Trump, the defendant. And the reason why is because Stormy Daniels is going to be painted as, for Donald Trump, the candidate, an agent of the state who is colluded with the Justice Department and Alvin Bragg and everyone else to lie and tell lie after lie after lie around getting money. Trust and believe that Donald Trump's campaign is going to spin this in a way that takes all of these inconsistencies and lies and continues to push the narrative that, look, everyone is out to get me.
And so just a little while ago, Nichols asked, is this a good time to break? Judging by the time, no, I'd like to go a little bit longer. Nichols, you testified on direct that after a few hours, you went to the bathroom. And when you came out, he was in a shirt and boxers. Daniels, yes. Nichols, well, I want to get back to where Trump was when you entered the suite room. And do you recall in their book, Withdrawn, you say that you came out of the bathroom and he was in shirt and boxers. You became faint, that the room spun. She says, I was shook. Yes, I was shook, surprised. She says, you've acted and had sex in over 250 porn movies, 150, she responds. This has, again, already been talked about, already been mentioned, already been specified, and yet the defense is going once again to repeat something that has already been confirmed.
Yeah, Judge Merchan is clearly giving them a whole lot of rope. But, as a lawyer, you have to be careful because it can be enough rope to hang yourself. And that's maybe what's exactly happening here, is that he's not cutting them off. But at this point, if I'm the trial team, I'm also looking at the time. It's now 11 o'clock. The jurors, when I was in trial, you start thinking about when is lunch, right? These are the kind of things you think about with the jurors. They're getting hungry. They've gotten to the security. They've been sitting there for hours. Second day, they're thinking about their personal life. So I'm sure the reason she asked for a break is because Susan Nichols is thinking about herself. This has been going on a while, and they want a break.
The break is coming shortly.
But we're not, the key, and you brought this up earlier, is that we're not seeing Stormy Daniels. And what I mean by that is, it is possible that part of why Susan Nichols is continuing this line of questioning is that she may feel like something about Stormy Daniels' demeanor is beginning to show agitation or irritation or something to the jury that she feels like she can capitalize. As trial attorneys, we know we're never going to get the Law and Order moment where someone stands up in a fit of rage and just, acts up in front of the jury. But it doesn't take that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of attitude, a little bit of sort of annoyance or irritation or a small snide remark in front of a juror that you don't now like this witness. And so it could be something about that makes her continue.
Okay, let's go back into the document right now, because here's where Nichols has gone. You've acted and had sex in over 250 porn movies. So we're going down this road again. Daniels, yeah, Nichols. And there are naked men and naked women having sex in those movies? Nichols, and according to you, seeing a man in T-shirt and boxers was so offending that you got lightheaded and nearly fainted? Daniels, yes. It was Mr. Trump on the bed, an older man sitting there. I was not expecting him to be there. Daniels, if I came out of the bathroom and it was not my husband, but Mr. Trump instead, I would probably have that same reaction. Daniels, this was definitely a power trip. Necklace, you said you made him your bleep because you are powerful. Daniels, I used to think so. Necklace, because he was supposedly in a T-shirt and boxer shorts, you were so upset that he wanted to have sex with you that you couldn't speak up. And Necklace continues, not the first time in your life someone made a pass at you. Daniels, this was the first time that they had a bodyguard outside the door, and they were twice my age and bigger than me. Necklace, you testified that he got out of bed and stood between the door, and he said, I thought you thought we were getting somewhere, and you blacked out, and the next thing you remember is that you were having sex. Daniels, yes. Necklace, you later told a completely different story. Daniels, no. I want to bring in Kristen Gibbons-Fedden, a former prosecutor, is now an MSNBC legal analyst, and just want to get your reaction to where Necklace is headed with this part of her cross-examination, taking everybody back into that hotel room.
Well, I think it's there's a couple reasons why she's doing this. One, she wants to highlight all of the inconsistencies. And what that does is it reinforces the narrative that Stormy Daniels is a liar. She is not to be believed. But I think the other issue, the other reason why she's doing this is because, the day before when Stormy Daniels was testifying, I think there was some feeling that there was this power imbalance. So for years, we're thinking this was consensual. And even on the stand, it made there seem like maybe it wasn't as consensual as it seemed, which could put Donald Trump in a negative light, particularly given all of his, given the prior civil litigation where he was found to be liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. So I think that it plays several roles, and even though that's not necessarily on the stand right now, it certainly could be if Donald Trump takes a stand. So I think the secondary reason why she's doing this is to show there wasn't really a power imbalance. This was purely consensual, if indeed it happened. And then I think the third reason why she's doing this is because I think she really wants to highlight that Stormy Daniels is in the business of fabricating sexual encounters. That is the nature of what pornography is. It is a fabrication of a sexual encounter. And I think what she's doing is she's saying, that's your profession. That's what you're doing here, and that's what you did to Donald Trump. You fabricated a sexual encounter. And I think that feeds into that narrative of the witch hunt that kind of Charles was talking about earlier, because if in fact she fabricated this sexual encounter, then it looks like that Donald Trump is really the victim of, extortion, or this really is a witch hunt and that everyone is out to get him. I think that not only, as Charles pointed out, is beneficial for him as the candidate, but I think it also plays into giving him, as the defendant, some empathy with the jury. It makes him look like he's the victim of extortion. But I do think that it really overlooks the broader context, right? Because regardless of the veracity of her story, if Stormy Daniels is a liar or if she's telling the truth, the fact remains is that she possessed information that at that time could have damaged Trump's candidacy for presidency. So I think this line of questioning, while it really does a lot to undermine her credibility, I think it really misses the point because, the overarching issue here is whether or not Donald Trump falsified business records to hide that story, whether true or false.
So Kristen, why would the prosecution then ask that level of questions with her when she was on direct?
Well, when you're presenting a case to the as one of your guests had pointed out, the prosecution still has to have a story to tell. And so they can't pick and choose what they want to say. They don't want to put Stormy Daniels on just to say, hey, this happened. Hey, this is what I was paid. No, you have to present the witness as a full person, good, bad, and ugly. And I think the prosecution not only did that to tell a full and complete story, but they also did that, I think, because a lot of the direct examination that Stormy Daniels testified to didn't necessarily make her look like an ideal witness. And so by doing that, the prosecutor was also making sure that the jury felt like they were being authentic. Because as a former prosecutor, I can tell you that I could stand up in front of, the jury at the end in the closing argument and say, listen, I gave you the good, the bad, and the ugly. These are the individuals that Donald Trump chose to surround himself with. These are the individuals that he picked, not the prosecution. And I gave you the full story. And here's what it really narrows down to. And then they'll go ahead and talk about she had that story to tell and that Donald Trump didn't want her to tell that story. And he went at all costs to make sure that that story did not get out prior to the election. And that's really what this boils down to. And that one of the things that he did to make sure that that story didn't come out was he falsified business records. And that's what it really boils down to.
Okay.
But if the prosecution didn't get out that whole story and the defense did, which they would have had the opportunity to, it would make it look like the prosecution was hiding something, which could really make the jury turn against them for that reason alone.
And now looking at what's happening inside the courtroom, this continued cross-examination of Stormy Daniels by Donald Trump's attorney. Necklace is asking her to read some passages from her book, also asking her about an interview she gave in In Touch magazine. Again, that was back in 2011. And Necklace says, you didn't say anything about him standing to In Touch magazine. Daniels, he stood up and said, come here. Necklace, nothing about the trailer park. Necklace, you made all this up, right? Daniels, no. No drugs, blackout. Daniels, I got lightheaded. I didn't black out. Necklace, you said you were fascinated and stimulated. You said you had good banter and you had a nice, intelligent conversation. Daniels, on the conversation before going to the bathroom, the conversation was intelligent and interesting. I enjoyed it. Necklace, you told Mr. Weisberg that it was no abuse and what happened with President Trump and that you were not a victim. Daniels, yes. And this is what you were saying in 2018, right? Daniels, yes. Necklace, and you said the worst that Trump had done was break promises you never believed he would fulfill. Necklace continues, Trump offered to buy you a condo in Tampa and feature you as a contestant for Celebrity Apprentice. You said the worst thing he did was not put you on Celebrity Apprentice, right? Daniels, I said the worst thing that he did was lie. And then Necklace continues, you didn't say anything about feeling faint. So, you know, what strikes me about this, Temidayo, is this idea that she had maybe had some kind of intimidation by Donald Trump kind of was presented during the direct testimony the other day. And we spoke with some other legal analysts who said that could be kind of a hairy area for the prosecution because Donald Trump is not accused of sexual assault in this trial. Those charges are much more serious. The fact that the defense is revisiting this with Daniels and the fact that she never said that, you know, this was not anything other than a consensual encounter is this important for Stormy Daniels to clear up in her testimony right now?
Well, I think the concern for the defense is, right, you do not want the jury thinking about your defendant being guilty of something that's not relevant. So there's a suggestion here that it wasn't consensual, that he overpowered her. You don't want that in their minds. The danger here, though, is that when you return and revisit this point, right, the jury has been home a day. They had a long day. It was a small part of on direct. Now you're coming back and unpacking it further, and you're saying, you know, you want her to say, tell us again, basically, he didn't do these things to you, when she, in fact, never said that. There was an inference. So I think the danger of the defense is that worth going back to this extensively?
Because the defense's clear intention here is to show that she is inconsistent even in the small things or maybe in the bigger things. So that line of questioning, for example, about what's the worst thing that Trump did to you, she says the worst thing was that he lied. And then Necklace continues to say, well, you said the worst thing he did was not put you on Celebrity Apprentice, right? I said the worst thing he did was to lie. You didn't say anything about feeling